Well, hello out there, all you cool cats and kittens. All right, so I guess another circle around the sun has gone by for me. So we have a birthday weekend going on, and believe me, you would not be hearing about me having a birthday this weekend if it wasn't for the wonderful wife who really made sure that we had a little bit of fun and stuff. So it was really cool. Um, Otherwise, we are here on a Sunday morning, March 6th, 2022. I am broadcasting live at 11:06 a.m. Eric Breen is first. What's up, brother? Good to see you, man. So, over the past week or so, or whatever, I got a few things to show. Maybe one or two books from my travels with work, and then I got some really good stuff, good things yesterday that I enjoyed. Maybe I can tell you the stories with them on this Sunday morning. But as always, we do the shows on Sunday mornings when I'm able to do them because as a kid, it was the traditional comic book time of it was raining outside, so you didn't go outside. You get a big pile of comic books, pile up on the bed, and you spend your Sunday reading comic books, listening to the rain. And where I lived in a trailer as a kid, there for a good bit of it, there's nothing like hearing the rain hitting the top of that metal roof. Oh, nice. I'll do some comments here in a minute. One's already cracked me up from John Jones. Okay, so I think around Monday, we'd reached a point with my wife who sort of was kind of asking what I wanted, and I'm the humble guy where I'm like, yeah, I got everything I need. I'm not real worried about my birthday. She's like, you're going to have something to open on your birthday, so I showed her what I wanted because she was asking. And it came in about 5 days before my birthday. When I got home from work and she was going to work, I hear your birthday present has been delivered by Amazon. It's on in the front door, and with that tone of voice, I thought I heard her say enjoy. That's what it sounded like to me. Your birthday present's come. It's been delivered. Take it inside. Enjoy. That's what I heard. So I take it inside and I pop it open, and I was having a blast with it. I ended up reading about 45 minutes straight through when I thought I was just going to crack it open and flip through. And I put some pictures on Instagram. I wake up the next morning, and I think around 11:40, 11:20, my wife had sent me a message that said, you were supposed to wait till Saturday, but what can I do? What can I do? Anyway, but I'll show you the dust jacket because I'm not putting it back on. But I got the Annotated Watchman. Now, if you've been watching the show, you know I have the two volumes, volume 3 and 4, the Annotated Sandman, which I've been enjoying, but they're not really packed. You know what I mean? They're not really packed with a lot of trivia and information and stuff, right? There's some good stuff in there, right? Oh no! Apparently, when you set a comic book, which is a milestone in comics and literature altogether in the real world, with a little bit of a sci-fi element, there's plenty in there to unpack. But anyway, this is a deceptive book if you run across it, right? This is really one of those times I think the cover of a book does not do it justice, and people may not buy it. They might be turned off for it, right? I mean, I do know people who are sick about hearing about Watchmen. I'll never be one of those, it looks like. But anyway, you see this dust jacket, and you're just sort of like, okay, yeah, okay, red. Traditionally, the colors for Watchmen are yellow and black, uh, whatever. But anyway, when you take the dust jacket off, the book is beautiful. Here it is. I mean, I may just do a whole review of this if I get on YouTube and see that there haven't been people. I don't like doing videos when there's a ton of other videos you can go out there and watch and look at of people reviewing. I come from that era where it was brand new. We were some of the first people to do comic book reviews and talk about these things. And over the years, low hanging fruit has been anything to do with Neil Gaiman, especially Sandman, Alan Moore's Watchmen. There's some low hanging fruit out there in hundreds of videos, literally hundreds of videos that people have done. But this one, when I actually enjoy a book, when I crack something open and I think it's fantastic, I'll do a video, But basically, you get the 12-issue series of Watchmen in this, and it's in black and white. And they go panel by panel, giving you annotations and trivia into the book. And this thing is packed full of fantastic fantastic information. I would highly recommend this to people. How many ways can they make me buy Watchmen? Apparently, all the ways. There's a Watchmen film noir out there that I've avoided. I'm like, big deal, because I have the 12-issue miniseries. 6 of the books have never been opened. I've got tons. I could probably reach down here. Yep, right here in this box. I'm still unpacking. I have beat up copies I bought over the years that I frame and have I had on walls and on top of bookshelves and stuff, right? And it's one of those things where I could probably do a whole video on my entire Watchmen collection. And that's not being a braggart, but it just amazes me that after seeing Dave Gibbons' artwork in pure black and white in this annotated book, now I want it. I'm like, it's fantastic. One of the tricks with Watchmen that made it have a mood, have an atmosphere, feel ethereal, gritty and stuff like that, was the fact that they used secondary colors off the palette. And that was a big deal back then. You gotta understand, this was really different when it came out. You kind of had to be there. Of course, I wasn't there from the groundwork when this book started in '86. It would be 2 years before I actually made it to my first comic book shop. But I've told the story where I still had the trade that I traded some guy for a couple of comic books, and it looked shady as hell. It looked like a drug deal going down in a parking lot of a grocery store. I'm like 15, and I've like put a bunch of comic books, slipped it in my flannel shirt, and I walk on over to the parking lot of the grocery store. This truck just happens to be, it's dusk, it's twilight, and the truck is parked under a street lamp, and there's a cone of light over the truck. And I go over there, we don't say too much, and I hand him the books. He hands me the Watchmen trade. I slide it back in, and we walk off. I took about 10 steps and was like cracking up, like, what the hell was that? Even when it happened, I knew. And he drove off, and that was my Watchmen. So my Watchmen was actually Mark Grunwald's Squadron Supreme, 12-issue miniseries that I was buying every month, and I had no idea where that book was going. That's what made it so good. So much stuff going in there. So yeah, seal of approval from Howler Mouse, because he likes the history and the trivia and the things that a lot of people, at least in my circles, think dry. Annotated Watchman right there. Okay, so go get it. It's awesome. Okay. I'll move forward here. Let's go ahead and we got some people watching here. It's awesome. Of course, we got the great Eric Breen out there. Make sure he was first. John Jones is out there. What's up? We have Dave McKenzie. Hey, right back to you. John Jones saying, going to try and watch this with a 2-year-old nephew running around. Actually, I used to be quite. I used to be able to. I work with kids. I used to work with kids and be pretty good with them. Going pulp hunting in a few minutes. Now that's a good Sunday, man. That is a good Sunday. I would love to be out pulp hunting. It's drying up in my area after years of doing these videos and talking about it. It's starting to dry up. We have the great Grotto out there. And Eric Breen doing a little bit of a plug here. Be sure to catch Howler on the 4-Color Fossils on the Graphic Man channel Wednesday nights. He does it to feel young again. They get me juiced up. So go to Graphic Man channel. Make sure you're subscribed. Hit that bell. He does a show every Wednesday night with a lot of other great YouTubers. A bunch of us seasoned comic veterans, if you will. And make sure you hit the bell, because it's a fun show. I pop in. I tell them, hey, man, I probably just have an hour tonight. And they show so many great books and comics that I'm like, it's 2 hours later. Love it. And right here's one of our fossils, Jambo Comics. What's up? Everybody's saying, hey. Thomas Churchill's popped up here. And the great Mr. Gretzky, 9966 is in there. Awesome. Awesome. A lot of people hanging out on a Sunday. That's fantastic. Okay, so speaking of the Fossil Show on Graphic Man channel, there was a Wednesday I missed a couple weeks because work out of the blue. I ended up having like 12-hour notice that I had to drive a round trip through Virginia from one end to the other for work. That ended up being 600 round miles. And I had to break up the trip on the way back because I was getting tired. And I stopped. I showed these last week. I don't know. But anyway, I was a little bit tired. So I stopped in Roanoke, Virginia. Didn't want to. Got a bite to eat. And I look over and I see this new comic book shop that's been there 4 or 5 months called Big Lit Comic Con, which was hilarious because I remember driving past it a few times, but never stopping in there. And so maybe subconsciously, I was pulled. I don't know. But I went in there and I wouldn't make a special trip, but if you're in town, I would go to it. I can't figure out their pricing, but it's a clean store, lots of music, friendly staff. It's got other things. But they had the weirdest, in my opinion, the weirdest pricing in their store. What I thought should have been dollar boxes, because a lot of the books are not mint that are in these boxes and they're real common, or $4 a piece. Then they have shelves of comics where I have a feeling somebody somewhere is watching YouTube spec channels or something. Which in the long run will be useless. But so they will pull out things and stuff and price them. And sometimes it's like $20 and $25. But then they had this book for $10. And I'm like, that can't be right, but I don't really keep up with prices and stuff currently. A few things might pop in my head if I have an interest. But for $10, I ended up getting this I believe it's the 1965 classic Rip Hunter Time Master, number 25. Now, when it comes to my Silver Age, I do love those Silver Age Kryptonian Superman stories and those Bizarro stories. I love my Atomic Knights. I love that sci-fi element, that sci-fi stuff that they had. Time Master, Rip Hunter here. I even love that name, Rip Hunter. I mean, I really hope that we cycle through history and time to where we start naming people things like Rip again. You know what I mean? That'd be awesome. Maybe I should be Rip Howler. I don't know. That might be cool. But I carry grudges. I admit it. I carry grudges. And I was sitting here realizing it's been like 16 years or something, maybe less. I don't know. Maybe more. I don't know. But I do know that there was a day that all my friends had a couple of friends who worked in a game store in the Claypool Hill Mall, if anybody wants to look that up. And they sold video games. And when they were setting up the store, I happened to edge myself in there, like, a little scoundrel, and help them pick out books, start stocking up on to sell that were new. And they got to know me a little bit. This is pre-YouTube and stuff. They got to know me. And I'll never forget the day I'll walk into the store and everybody's real quiet. Nobody's really speaking to me. And they're all waiting. And, I thought it was going to be some really bad news. I thought somebody died. And it turned out that Rip Hunter was the father of Booster Gold. And they didn't know how I was going to react. They just knew that I was going to be crushed in some way. So, yeah, fuck you, Booster. But, yeah, whoever made that decision, they can kiss my ass. Rip Hunter is not the father. I'll go in denial. I want a paternity test. Let's go on one of those talk shows. Rip Hunter, you are not the father. And this sort of cracks me up. I've always sort of mentioned how, back issues, in my opinion, were going to be the things that kept the hobby alive. Okay, I'm not talking about the industry, the hobby and stuff, right? And this is one of those series that there's been a little bit of a zeitgeist. I love that. You know what I mean? Where it's all organic and natural and stuff. But there for a few issues, Sam Keith was playing around with Marvel Comics Presents. They kept him on for a while. I would tell you exactly how long, but it was a weekly comic. So, to go from issue 75 to issue 122 was didn't take long. And he's doing covers. And then they came in and they did a Wolverine and Venom anthology series through Marvel Comics Presents. And I picked up 2 or 3 of these, and I don't know how many there are. It's just for fun. When I run across them, I pick them up. I make sure I don't have them. But there's quite a few other people that have picked up on the Marvel Comics Presents, finding some good real story arcs here and there. So it's always kind of cool when you start seeing people have the same idea to get something, and it comes naturally. You know what I mean? When you can't really put your finger on how did everybody kind of start remembering this. I love that stuff. Eric Breen, we have a clarification on his pulp hunting today. Clarification, by pulp, I meant comics. May even do a haul video when I get back. That would be awesome. We needed that clarification because, yeah, I totally thought you meant going out hunting old pulps like Doc Savage and stuff, right? That'd be fantastic. Old Andre Norton books and whatnot. Jose Farmer and things like that. getting into the wild world theory there. Here we go. What do we got here? Employ your mental editor. If you don't accept it, it didn't happen. That's right. If I say it, it's reality. That's how I trick myself. Anyway, so yesterday upon on our travels for the birthday weekend and everything, I had breakfast cooked for me. It was fantastic. Got some homemade biscuits and homemade gravy. And then it was time to take the lady out. I really am. I feel very lucky about a lot of things. I don't take a lot of things for granted. Um, Even though things may never be perfect for any of us, we can look around and realize some of us are, we have some blessings. Let's put it that way. So it was my birthday lunch, but we were going to one of my wife's favorite restaurants. Oh man, what was it called? I'll have to look it up. I can't remember now. But anyway, it's a great barbecue place. So it's some Southern food. I keep wanting to say Southern Comfort, but that's not it. That's a completely different thing for anybody that knows their spirits, if you will. We'll look it up. Anyway, we went to this great restaurant in Bristol, Virginia / Tennessee, near the state line. Bristol exists on Tennessee and in Virginia all at the same time. And they have some really great restaurants. And State Street, of course, has a comic book shop. So I made it to the comic book shop. Oh, man, there is a comic book con going on in Greensboro as we speak. People are, one of my buddies is there, probably selling. Damn it. Greensboro is probably about 2-3 hours from me, so couldn't have made it. Well, anyway, we ended up going to a great barbecue place on my Facebook. We took pictures of the food because it really is that good. That's one of the few times. But before we got there, I stopped in a place. I'm not going to say it. I might have already said it because I have people who watch this just to find my honey pots. But out there, I found a guy who sells comics. I hit there about every 3 or 4 months. It's the place where I got over 25 issues of Immortal Hulk, probably for $1 a piece or less when I bought in bulk, 14 books for $10, that sort of thing. And I went through and I just grabbed a few things since I was there. But I had this fantastic Future Quest presents. We had Future Quest, a 12-issue miniseries where all the Hanna-Barbera characters of yesteryear, of the 60s, the great 60s, had all crossed over. And one of the things that was great about that is they had a lot of variant covers. One of my favorite variant covers from Future Quest were not only the Steve Rude stuff, but also the fact that they got Bill Sienkiewicz to come in. And now I have a Bill Sienkiewicz Space Ghost cover. And now we have the Galaxy Trio cover by Bill Sienkiewicz. So that is fantastic. Totally niche for me. Totally niche. I don't know if this caught my eye. And for some reason, I've been seeing this for like 6 or 7 months in my honey pot. I don't know if it's a key. I don't know if it was a hot book for a while, but it's one of those things that is unbagged. I got it for less than $1 and it kept popping up. I need to look it up. And I'm actually going to give Jason Aaron a chance on Thor because Jason Aaron is capable of writing some really gritty, and he's just a great writer. I'm sitting here going to try to be a thesaurus talking about Jason Aaron's writing, but the man is capable of writing some stuff. Man, I read his Scalped, and that's where I got a lot of respect for his writing because I'm like, who thinks of this? How does this happen? And had the consistency that he had in there. And Scalped is a cop book, a dirty, gritty cop book, to where every time I read it, I feel like I spent the night on a soiled, a dog-stained, dog-soiled mattress with that moldy smell to it. And I felt like I was in a crumbling building where the plaster has that moldy smell to it. And I needed to go take a shower. Now, how many books really, honestly, can you sit here and say made you feel that way? All right, we got Silver Age popping in. Nice. Fantastic. So anyway, Thor God of Thunder. I have no idea if this is a key or what's going on, but I'm like, we'll give it a try. Whatever. Not big on modern Marvel books these days and stuff, right? So now I got a little treat. I'm segueing in there with Bill Sienkiewicz, right? And I went through there, and I don't know how I didn't see this. I don't know how long it'd been in that honey pot. And there's probably like about 7 more issues for me to go back and get at some point. But I'll sit there. But I didn't want to overload on it. I wanted to try out the series and make sure because I just wanted to get the Bill Sienkiewicz series because I think Kyle Baker came in and replaced him. They were still looking for somebody with that very violent style. That can be a violent style of. When I look at this artist, I get the same feelings and emotions and stuff like that. But when I look at like H.R. Geiger's stuff and everything like that, right? But I got the 80s DC pre-Vertigo. This probably would have been a Vertigo series. I want to say this probably came out in 87. Yeah. But anyway, I got the Shadow #1. I got the license again. The Shadow license bounces around quite a bit, at times, but this is the good stuff. They had Andrew Heffler coming in there with the Bill Sienkiewicz art. Now I'm going to put this right beside of my question #1, because apparently when Bill Sienkiewicz does issue #1 covers, we get the same kind of bust. You know what I mean? We get like, we just kind of get a bust of him here, right? So this would look very nice in front of my question #1. But this is a shiny. I mean, this thing looks like it was yesterday. I haven't cracked it open yet. And so I got #2 of the Shadows and Light series. I've heard great things about this series, but like I said, I'm getting the Sienkiewicz interiors also. Now, the advertisements of this stuff was not on newsstands. Okay, obviously no UP code or anything like that. So I would see the advertisements for it, right? So it's kind of cool to see that this is flipped. Now I have the comic and I see the advertisements for comics I could get. And this stuff, these advertisements, I would love to find somebody out there on the internet, some little company who you can send them an image of a comic book ad or a comic book cover, and they'll make you a poster of it. Because this Steve Lytle, even though I consider, if Paul Cooperberg, who wrote the Doom Patrol series with fantastic Steve Lytle art, if Paul Cooperberg could write comics as well as he curses people out online that I saw a few years ago, that guy could have been the first Garth Ennis. You know what I mean? But a lot of people take up for Paul Cooperberg, and he seems to be a nice guy. But anytime I saw him on a series, I was like, this could be a kiss of death. But when it comes to Doom Patrol, Paul Cooperberg is a team player, because when they handed it to Grant Morrison killed off a lot of characters he created, and he even kind of was like, "What do you need me to set up, Grant?" So good on Paul. But anyway, I love these old advertisements. I digress. I started going down memory lane. But when they're bringing back the Doom Patrol, I'm a Doom Patrol guy. Doom Patrol, Black Adam, Commandy. I don't know anything that sums it up more. Maybe a little OMAC in there, But yeah, I like those obscure characters and stuff. Been a fan of all. It's like the characters that I like when I finally understood what I was really reading and able to get in there and find my own way with the Stepdad's comics and stuff. And I've been buying my own comics for a year. Commandy, OMAC, Doom Patrol, Black Adam, because he was on a Filmation cartoon series and stuff. They're still my favorites. You know what I mean? Doom Patrol, kind of wild to see them rise. But anyway, more fantastic Shadow covers, little Doc Savage. So you had Shadow and Doc Savage, and I've heard nobody talk about the DC Doc Savage stuff. This even tells you he's not who you think he is. Now, since we've got Gore Vidal and we got Dr. Silver Age out there and Eric Breen and things like that, maybe a topic for a future, but have you seen Buckaroo Banzai? I'm sure you have. My wife wasn't, because she was a year old, maybe 2 years old when that came out. And I showed her the trailer to Buckaroo Banzai instead of just watching the movie. And she was like, "What the hell was that? The trailer didn't tell me anything." And I caught myself finding that in order to explain Buckaroo Banzai, I would have to talk about Doc Savage. So the topic that I'm going to throw out there at some point in time is Buckaroo Banzai. Just how much of a Doc Savage is he and his crew? You can discuss amongst yourselves if you like right now. But yeah, these Sienkiewicz covers, man, there's nothing that takes me back like a Sienkiewicz cover. And then I got the annual. Now this one is cool, and I hope this is Joe Orlando that's in this, of the EC Comics fame. You know what I'm saying? Even though he worked at DC for years and stuff, man. But I would say this looks like a Kyle Baker cover. It's kind of hard because they were really trying to be Sienkiewicz. But we got an Andrew Heffler and Joe. Hopefully this is a Joe Orlando Shadow annual. Now this was the only one I really was going to buy to check out what they were doing to see if I wanted the series. Look at that advertisement on this one. Hellblazer was coming. Ended up loving that series. Okay. Then I got the second annual also. And again, this would be a beautiful cover. That would be an album cover. If I ever had become a famous rock star, I would have to go with something like this for my cover. because back then, this is the 80s, man. I actually had a pulp novel, an actual book I was reading. It was about an assassin who could basically see in the dark and a few things like that. And on the cover of his book, it was him wearing sunglasses, fading into the black like this, with holding his pistol up by his head like this. I drew that thing over and over and over when I would sit there and start doodling in class and stuff. And of course, we got the series where I was bragging on Sean McManus' art, finally getting to explode in a Dr. Fate series, because I'd seen the guy do a few Swamp Thing and stuff. And I'm just noticing I've got a little damage on this book. That's okay. It was less than $1. But yeah, I had some fun with this series. I finally got to read the first 12, 13 issues of what they were doing with Dr. Fate at the time. A little bit ahead of its time. A little bit ahead of its time. Let's see what we got here. Wow. You guys are just really talking it up out there. That's awesome. Fantastic. Oh, Doctor, I'm trying to find where I left off. Oh. Mike Gretzky says, hope to see you at Heroes Con. Well, if work doesn't screw me over, hopefully I can go this year. I'm not planning ahead too far. Grotto, Eric, Kayfabe put up an interview with Ed Brubaker this morning. Jambo, happy Sunday. Thanks there, brother. Good to see you pop in there. Okay, what we got here? Talking about my comics that I've shown, the clarification. Okay, what we got here? Currently reading Prime and Supergirl by Peter David at the moment. Not sure if I want to carry on with the series. If you're talking about the Malibu Prime series, I don't know. As far as Peter David's Supergirl, I'm a Peter David fan, and it didn't really hold my interest back in the day. Greensboro, yeah, and you're going to Greensboro. Yeah, I was surprised to see that when I did that. Dr. Silver Age is here. We got Jambo, and we got the fossils all popping up, man. Good to see you, man. What we got here? Eric Breen likes the Supergirl series, it looks like. The Peter David Supergirl is the best Supergirl series by a wide margin. And I loved every version until that series. Oh, gotcha. Okay. I think a lot of the attention back then went from his Supergirl series to the Fallen Angel series because people thought Fallen Angel might be Supergirl. I don't know. What we got here? Love the Hanna-Barbera superheroes from those great classic 60s, man. Love it. Yeah, love that stuff. Everybody's saying hello. There we go. We got some raw advice here when it comes to Jason Aaron. Don't read Jason Aaron's Avengers if you want to continue your high opinion of him. I'm being nice on the show. I've met Jason Aaron a little bit. I've got some of his stuff signed and everything, but you can't really name a lot of superstar writers and artists nowadays like you could in yesteryear. And Jason Aaron seems to be one of the guys that is capable of doing it by merit, by some of the things he's written, both good and bad. He has some infamous stuff that he wrote and some famous stuff he wrote. I think he's quite capable if he can be just set loose, I think. Who knows what we could see from him. Right. See if that is it. We have Gore Vidal. How are you, Gore? Jason's Thor was excellent. I liked when Jane Foster became Thor. Every time she became Thor, she made the cancer she was suffering from worse, but she was selfish. Very moving story. Okay, gotcha. And then Shadow. Oh, Bill Sienkiewicz's Shadow was great. And I was reading it as it came out. Couldn't get a hold of it when it came out. Wanted to, but I was like 15, no comic book shop. Dr. Silver Age, have a fellow Doom Patrol fan. Love Doom Patrol. What do we got here? Honestly say, if you did live in the 80s, then Hellblazer can be a hard read to some people, but great art and covers. I think if you didn't live in I think you meant, maybe, did you mean didn't live in the 80s? I'm with you. A lot of it. Jamie Delano's Hellblazer is foundational, but I found that younger readers have difficulty reading or following it. They skip it and go straight to Garth Ennis's run. Jamie Delano's writing on the beginning of the Hellblazer series for me, I think I've said it before. I found it sort of underwhelming because, you went from like Alan Moore and Neil Gaiman playing. I think that's right, coming in there. And when I finally got to read some of her stuff, I was just sort of like, whatever. But now I get to the positive. They haunted me. I would lay there at night, get ready to fall asleep, and then I would be thinking about some stuff that she put in her books. They haunted me. So Jamie Delano is quite a very deceptive writer. You know, it doesn't feel like it's sensational, but she gets into your she gives you a little dent in the head. Okay, awesome. Okay, so again, some of this stuff might be underwhelming for you and stuff, but Warren Ellis is a guy that I can separate separate the art from the artist, if you will, right? And it kind of cracked me up that to me it always felt like Warren Ellis was like a superstar to begin with, and it's kind of hard to remember that he paid his dues on the way up. You know, he ended up writing things like Doom 2099 and things like that. But it always felt like he was always a superstar. You kind of felt, I always had a feeling that it wasn't so much him paying his dues, which in reality it was, moving up, taking projects, becoming the big superstar and stuff. But in my head, for some reason, I was like, oh, he's just doing some of this stuff because he wants to. Like he can pick and choose, and it probably wasn't the case. But he had a little run on Thor there, but he also had a little run on Excalibur. In Excalibur, he ended up helping make one of there's been 2 or 3 characters created because people couldn't use John Constantine, right? So they're thinly veiled John Constantine. And he created a guy named Pete Wisdom for this, who hung out with Kitty Pryde. And then even having a mini series called Pride and Wisdom. But they're thinly veiled versions of John Constantine, right? So we start out here. I want to say this is his first issue, but I'm not sure. But it's a fantastic cover. You know, very Sienkiewicz like. It is Sienkiewicz, but this is number 83, and of course we start out with the Soul Sword trilogy. Now I am going to tell you, Warren Ellis did some stuff in Excalibur. Excalibur is a very underrated book, even though it has some extreme highs and lows, right? After I finally got to read Alan Moore's Captain Britain that they published over here in America from the early 80s that he did with Alan Davis, I didn't realize how much Chris Claremont had pulled out of that into his X-Men. And then Excalibur that came out after, what was it, Inferno, or after the Morlock? Oh, no, it came out right before Inferno. It came out of the Morlock Massacre. There we go. I think that's right. Anyway, or maybe, anyway, but they came out and it pulled from Alan Moore's Captain Britain. A lot of those characters that Alan Davis had played around with did it. And they hung around there. Then they had a deep low, and Davis and eventually Claremont left the book. And then Alan Davis came on and did the writing in drawing, which was fantastic. Then we had another low. I think Scott Liddell came on, and then we had Warren Ellis come out. So I have 83, 84. I'm missing issue 85 of the next one. Then I pick kind of back up on it, but I'm always picking up the Warren Ellis stuff because number one, it takes place in Britain. He's British. So there's a feel in there for, me as an American who's never been there. I can feel the atmosphere. I feel like it is taking place in a different country. And then I got this. This is an upgrade. I didn't open it and stuff, but it has some great Doom Patrol stories. But from those cocaine-filled 70s, if you will, we have Super Team Giant Family number 9 with Challengers of the Unknown who live on the borrowed time, and the secret of the Doom Patrol revealed at last. And eventually I think they would have I think this is the series. It was either this, I know it was definitely DC Showcase, but I swear there's a Super Team Family out there that might have had at the time, a rare Swamp Thing appearance. That's going off the top of my head. But I love, like I said, I love some of these books out there that are just real thick and have some reprints and anthology stories and things like that going on. Still a lot of fun with those. Fantastic stuff, man. And like I said, Ellis is one of those guys I can separate the artist from the artist. Anybody that's watched me for years knows that even though Warren Ellis probably has no idea who I am, and he's pissed off a lot of people over the years, we kept crossing over on MySpace and on message boards and stuff, and he would kick me off, have a few words. And there was a year at Heroes Con where he just started yelling at me, and I really have no idea because I have zero illusions that he knows who I am. But I was walking through Heroes Con when the one time Warren Ellis was there, and as I was working my way through the crowd and he was talking on a panel or something like that, he started berating somebody, and you couldn't understand him. He was berating so hard and that accent was so thick. I was just sort of like, oh man, who's he looking at? And then I started noticing the people around me were looking at me, and I'm like, is he yelling at me? And I really couldn't comprehend if he knew who I was or what I was or what was going on. But I did something, maybe I walked in front of him, I don't know, but he was berating me. That's my claim to fame with Warren Ellis. 10 seconds of getting berated in front of people. Got here. Nice. I love Korak. I might have to wait till after I get back from band rehearsal later. Gotcha. Oh, Eric Breen is off. He's on a hunt. Good luck. May your bounty be plentiful today. All right. Eric Breen, Graphic Man's going. Oh, that's Graphic Man. Graphic Man. I'm going to be showing the full run of Korak later. Didn't want to crash with Howler here. Oh, that's awesome. You do what you got to do, Graphic Man. It's always cool to see you there, man. But it's cool, man. So one of the things I have pre-ordered, and I stopped in a comic book shop in Bristol I was telling you about, and apparently a little secret is that when comic book shops get promotional material, apparently it's not supposed to be sold. It's not for resale. So he'll stick them on a shelf and you can go through them and get them. But Matt Wagner's Grendel Omnibus Part 1 is coming out in about 2 months, right? I pre-ordered it, and it's supposed to be in chronological order. I did not read to see if it's chronological order of the character in the story or if it's chronological order of how the books came out. But I went ahead and I got a 35% discount on the omnibus that's coming out where they are reprinting a lot of the Grendel stuff. I know somewhere, somebody, it's the 40th anniversary of Grendel. I haven't read what Matt Wagner is saying here. But t-shirts, lunchbox, shot glasses, Halloween masks. Apparently there's supposed to be all kinds of stuff coming for the 4th anniversary, I guess, reading this. But I'll put this on Instagram after I look at it. But I got quite a bit. I got quite a few of the posters because I have one that had it had some stuff spilled on it and stuff, right? But I love certain things like that. I'm a huge fan of Matt Wagner's Mage, and I've never really been able to latch on to Grendel, despite that I've had tons of people over the years, YouTube years here, and 2 or 3 of those people I highly respected them all, but there's some people I highly respected telling me you got to read it. They talk about it. So I finally gave it a chance, and they ended up having this last series end, I guess, with some Grendel in the post-apocalyptic future in an arena where I felt like I was watching Gladiator, the movie. And they come out and his big foe he's going to fight was like a midget Trump who was just running his mouth, and it went political for some reason. And that really embarrassed the person who was been like building up Grendel for me. So I'm still going to give Grendel a chance. We'll go back to the 80s stuff, and start there and see what I can find. I have a lot of the Kamiko series. That's what's so funny. I like the storytelling that Matt Wagner does in there that he's playing around with. The technique. It's not so much the book, but how he's doing the book. How he's building the book up and the new things that the new ways he was telling, doing stories and stuff. Okay. Now, this is some more stuff that I got at the comic book shop, except for this one issue. They got mixed up in it. Here's what's funny about Suicide Squad, right? If it was on the spinner rack in the 80s, and this came out of the Legend series that John Byrne did with Len Wein and John Ostrander and stuff like that. But out of this came Suicide Squad, right? And I held on to the first 15 issues, definitely for, seriously, no exaggeration, probably 25 years or more. I probably sold them in 2012. And when I say sold, traded in for store credit to get some books and stuff, right? So I held on to these forever. And the thing about the Suicide Squad that was killing me, I stopped getting the series, and, I kept number 1, of course. So I looked up there. But it was the fact that these were really good stories with a horrible terror. And I hold it up. It's nothing personal with the guy, man. But I can't stand his art style, this Luke McDonnell. I could never figure out how he ended up on Justice League Detroit and Iron Man and then Suicide Squad, even with these inks and stuff, right? I was like, this book would be huge if they had a better artist. So surprise, surprise, when I heard people talking about this throwaway character named William Hale from 1987, possibly I don't know, this may be his only appearance. Hell, I don't know, but it was a pretty lame issue. This was a filler issue, definitely. It felt like we got our 3-story arc to introduce us to the team, and then we got a breather issue that's just throwaway. But thanks to the Peacemaker HBO Max show, which I'm sorry guys, I watched the whole thing. I can totally get why some people like it, but there was just too many little things there that I just had to shake my head at. I couldn't enjoy watching it. But I must have missed where William Hale popped in there. Maybe he was mentioned instead of shown or something. But yeah, this book went up for a while. And then when I saw like one of those big spec hot books from a few weeks ago in another dollar bin, I was like, I feel like I'm just proving a point. It's hilarious. What do we got here? We have an update. We have an update on the Grendel poster I just showed, guys. I also got that Grendel poster. I think I'll have to wait until you get the Omni team and review to see if I want to get it. I have the Dark Horse Omni and all things Grendel and Mage anyway. Fantastic. I'm not surprised at that. Mage all the way, man. I really recommend Mage. I enjoy Mage. So, as we delve into things, there was, like I said, I've mentioned before how I didn't have a comic book shop around me. And I was probably about 16, maybe 1989. I want to say 88, 89, being conservative, before I made it to my first comic book shop. And that was the only comic book shop I went to for years, probably up until like 1993 or 4, seriously. And but I would be able to get some books here and there. There was a bookstore in a Mercer Mall, which was an hour away from me. Walden Books, is that what they were called back in the day? And they would have a spinner rack, and they would have some direct market books and Amazing Heroes and other magazines and stuff that I get. And I would see these advertisements, and then you would also see these advertisements with like catalog comic companies buying advertisements in comics where they would have a list of books you can buy right off of there, or send them a stamped envelope and get their full catalog. And one of the things that I started seeing through Dark Horse was Roachmeal. Okay. So I would see the advertisements for this, and it was like Roachmeal Exterminators or something, right? So basically the concept for this is in the 30th century, an alien race comes down. And this is a beat up copy I got for nothing at Square Bound. So it's probably 5 or 6 issues of the series. If they even made 20 of these books, I'd be surprised. So I don't know. But anyway, Roachmeal is in the 30th century. An alien race has come down, and it caused people to start carrying guns around, because I think they've passed a law to where you are allowed to kill some of the aliens, I guess, because they're treating it like an infestation. But the thing that cracks me up that made this book sort of infamous and talked about is that it's Dirty Harry style. The main character is tongue-in-cheek and thinly veiled Dirty Harry, Clint Eastwood. Black and white. And what kind of gets me as I'm flipping through this is that the artwork goes from gritty realistic to cartoony to ridiculous. So this is going to be an interesting read, right? But I'm really interested. Here we go. But our main character, the Dirty Harry, Clint Eastwood type there, if you scroll up, you find out that he has 2 cockroach legs. I don't know what that's about. But I'm starting to get fascinated. And Gore Vidal's here, so I have a feeling he's going to know what I'm talking about, along with some of the other fossils and stuff. But Gore Vidal is the one I've specifically heard reference many books over there. But I have this fascination with the fact that the 80s books were called alternative books, not indie books, right? In that era where they were considered alternative books, I'm really glad I'm starting to pick these up, because, like I said, I think last year when it came to buying new comic books, of this era and stuff like that, I think I ended up buying 27 books, and one was like Barry Windsor Smith Monster, some epic collections that came out that reprint the older stuff, very few new books and stuff, right? So that's really causing me to be able to back up and collect some of the stuff I just saw in advertisements or as I run across it. I found this by pure accident and got it for $3, and I think, like you said, it probably reprints about 6 or 7 issues. So I'm really going to have some fun going back and exploring some of this older stuff when they were alternative comics. I also have Amazing Heroes here that made me feel really good, because as I was reading it the other night and thinking, oh man, 1985 was a great time to be buying comics. The last page, or near the last page, was the top 100 comics of that month. And I was reading through them, having that nostalgic feel of being 12 years old and getting these books and everything. And then at the very bottom of it, it says top 10 alternative comics. And I'm like, I knew it. I now have documented proof that comics were called alternative and not indie from that era. And I heard myself say that, and I'm like, man, this YouTube thing is really gotten into your head a little bit, So, all right, for anybody going to the comic book shop, I picked this up just so I can kind of go through it to see what's going on. But I got some comic shop news. Road to Dark Crisis. So, yeah, I've heard that they're going to be killing the Justice League, and I've heard zero buzz about it. I don't think anybody really cares. And there was a conversation about that. I kind of, it's not that I dodged the conversation in the comic book shop, is that I really had to go. I was really going out the door, but they were talking about some of the changes going in. The comic book shop owner actually said that he's had 2 or 3 people come in because of what they did to the son of Superman. But the comic book shop owner's bigger problem was people not realizing that the people who don't read comics that had a problem with it didn't realize it wasn't Clark Kent, that they made all those changes with him. And then my point of view was, it seems like all the people that are defending it, the changes that they did to the son of Superman, the people who are defending it and the people who are mad about it, a lot of the people don't read comics. That's what's getting me. There's a lot of outsiders who don't collect comics. They seem to be the ones making the biggest noise. And I kind of don't count the YouTube because it's whatever for clicks. You know what I mean? A lot of it is for clicks. I don't see a lot of passion about what they've done for real. Just they're not invested in the comics. So I'm sitting here and I'm like hearing the comic book shop owner talk about how somebody's defending it. They have come in to check out the book, and then there's other people against it and talking about why they keep changing things and stuff. And the people doing the loudest arguing are people who don't collect comics. Meanwhile, I'm sitting here like, well, I'm not spending my money on it. I think it's stupid. I think this is stupid. Well, that could be good, or this could be bad. I don't care. I'm going on, and I don't have time for mediocrity. I'm picking up things that as I run across them and exploring some things, right? Like this. I have the single issues of this, but I didn't know that it came out in magazine form, and it doesn't look like it's a Marvel Super Special. But from 1991, this Marvel magazine came out, and I'm hoping Charles Vest does the art in it, but it's the movie it's the adaptation of Hook, the movie by Spielberg with them. And even if you found the movie underwhelming and a little depressing or whatever, because it's all about Peter Pan getting old and having to find his happy thought so he can get the pixie dust and fly again and go against the Dustin Hoffman Hook, I kind of enjoyed the movie. And here's the and Charles Vest, of course, was the perfect artist to. I think he actually got to go on set when he got to research some of this stuff for the adaptation. I don't know, but this was a cool find. I think I got all of these less than $5 stuff. He cut me a break. Now this next one, if you've stuck around, this is a real treat. Even though I guess I should have took pictures, he took pictures, right? But the comic book shop, Mountain Empire Comics, he had something that you don't see in our area a whole lot. Okay, because, and as we were discussing things around 2006 and 7, I started trying to do some research about EC Comics and exactly how they were distributed. I had a lot of time on my hands. Okay, I had a lot of time on my hands, and the internet was, getting better. It was getting faster. We didn't have to do all the dial up everywhere you went. But I was trying to figure out why I don't see a lot of EC Comics around here, right? And of course, my mind went straight to the fact that it's the Bible Belt, number one, and a lot of that stuff was violent horror stuff. Combine that with the Senate hearings about them, the Seduction of the Innocent book and stuff. And I kind of was curious if that really had that big of an effect, because you never really saw them in back issues. You never saw the season collectors, even when I was a kid that had those. They had the creepies. They had the House of Eerie's magazines, the House of Secrets, and they had horror books that were coming back in the early 70s, but you never saw those from the 50s. And I kind of had it confirmed because the comic book shop owner, when I walked in, somebody had led him. He was pricing them. He didn't know if he was going to buy them or not, but it was a stack of EC Comics from the 50s, 1952. I want to say there was one from 47 or 48, but that doesn't sound right. But I got to look at them. And what was so funny is that I was going through his boxes and I found the reprints of some of the books. I had in my hands the original Weird Science fantasy book or whatever it was for these covers, which was amazing. And when I brought him out, the comic book shoulder owner and I really got to talk about him, and he took pictures of them side by side, the original and then like the reprint where they use the cover and everything like that. And I was talking to him, and it turns out that he actually found, or somebody had found, an article from the 50s of local newspapers in our area saying, do not let your kids read these EC comics. They're evil and violent and stuff. So this is what I'm talking about. When you've watched my channel and I've talked about the stigma of comics, and I've held my ground that it's not as bad as it was, but the stigma of comics is still here. I still say there's a stigma for comics, but that just goes to show you that going way back to the 50s, comic books were evil and they were junk and they were going to rot brains, and people were against them. And I'm convinced that with that newspaper article, they probably didn't even hit the newsstand. So that's what's good about getting out and, sometimes finding people who know what they're talking about with comics. He kind of filled in the gaps for me on a little project I tried to do around 2006 because I had a lot of time on my hands. Okay, but anyway, getting back up here, EC Comics. I tell you what, man. I know we have our Kirby's and we have our Ditkos. We have that Marvel time in the 60s, the Silver Age, but it's kind of like the 80s with wrestling. The WWF was the big boy, with their rock and roll wrestling and Cyndi Lauper and Hulkamania and their Macho Madness and then the Ultimate Warrior and stuff. But the true talent that could probably out wrestle people because it felt real and everything was the NWA down in Mid-South Atlantic area and TBS, and before it got bought out and became something completely different. So where you had all the flash and the characters and the personality with them, you had like the real wrestling where it could be real down south and it felt good. And that's what it feels like with EC Comics. When it comes to the talent pool that they had, the Wally Woods, the Jack Davis, all, everybody that was just there. I tell you what, man, could you just imagine, as much as I love my Kirby, I love Kirby and stuff like that, but could you just imagine if these were the guys that started the Marvel Universe and stuff with this talent? This stuff is just so amazing, artwork wise. Just the mood and the feel, and it's in the 50s and stuff, right? But oh man, anyway, that stuff just makes me soft looking at it, relaxes me. Scott Conner is here. WWF doesn't compare to ECWSF. There we go. Good old NWA wrestling. Here we go. Comic Collector is here. What's up, brother? What is this? I want Weird Fantasy 18 just for the Judgment Day story. Is that issue 15? Oh, I'm not sure, but I have it in reprint somewhere, and the story behind the story is just as good as the story. So much good stuff, man. But yeah, the EC stuff, I've really got a huge appreciation for it. Yes, nice. Okay. So I've only got 2-3 more things to show here, and we'll probably be done. So hang in there. But I found this, and I'm always picking up this, even though I never played the DC Heroes role-playing game. I have the Legion source books, Legion of Superheroes, the Batman source book, the Superman source book, and I got all the Watchmen stuff. I've had that Watchmen stuff since like 1993 probably and stuff, right? But this is inside of it. Welcome to the DC universe. As you open it up, hopefully it's going to get whited out and get it focused here, but buy 3 and get 1 free subscription service for their comics. But over here, they've got the role-playing stuff. And this is what burned my ass a little bit because I didn't know. And I'm going to have to go through those role-playing books now. But it says, have you missed the poster-sized maps of the Batcave? Somewhere on this shelf, I have the role-playing stuff at hand. And now I have to make sure and see if I have the poster-sized Batcave that came with the Batman source book. The poster-sized floor plans of the Titans Tower. The complete map of Gotham City used by Alan Moore in the Swamp Thing comic. The pre-Keen Act adventure of the Watchmen with new artwork and cover by Dave Gibbons, and the interior plans for Brainiac's ship. And it tells you which of these DC role-playing books to get those at. I may have had incomplete source books all these years and didn't know it. So thank you, Mayfair Games, for making sure that this was inside of the Superman source book here. And what's cool about this source book is that it gives you a pre-crisis Superman and it gives you the Earth 2 Superman and how to play them different. Now, even if you're not into role-playing games and you're into comic book history, these are some of the things you can get in because they pull from the source material and kind of give you a better idea. Okay. Now, another thing that's funny here is that having streaming every now and then and coming home from work and being able to sit down every now and then, you end up binging some really weird shows that you never thought you would be able to binge. And we've been watching a show called Castle, and we're about done with it, and I'm about done with it. But Castle was about a writer who needed to be inspired to come up with a new character because he just ended a series of books. And he ended up coming up with Nikki Heat based on, in that show, a real detective, and it made him millions. But it goes meta. It goes meta, but because you get to hear about the books that he's written, they have titles and everything. And they even had an episode where he walked into the police station, said that they're taking one of his books and adapting it into a comic book and stuff, right? Well, they really did. This is where it goes meta. When you would hear about the books on the show, they really had somebody become Richard Castle, the author, and put out the Nikki Heat books that he had on the show. And then when he had a character named Derek Storm, and they mentioned comic book adaptations, they really did them. So here it is years later. I can get it for $1 at Books A Million. But now I can enjoy the show and see the comic book that he's talking about on the show. Turns out those Nikki Heat books are real also. So while I was talking to the people at Books A Million, trying to get the full story and trying to help them get them to look up, see what they had in the store, they also let me know that you can get books written by Jessica Fletcher of the character for Murder, She Wrote. I've seen the Murder, She Wrote books, but thought they were like TV episodes or episodes based on the show. No, those are Jessica Fletcher's books that she writes in the show. I think that stuff's kind of cool. I mean, call it what you will, I love the ambush bug module. They need one. I'm sure somebody has come up with a way to play him. Solid. Oh, yeah. What's up, Shannon? Hey, Tim. If anyone else is interested in how comics were received back in the 40s and 50s and EC Comics, then you should have a book called The 10-Cent Plague, The Great Comic Book Scare. Everybody needs to write that down and get this book. I'm hoping I can remember it because I have nothing to write with. But yeah, I want that 10-Cent Plague book. I love that stuff. And how it changed America. Nice. And then I have the book on disc and it's great. Okay, maybe it's on, I wonder if it's on YouTube. People upload stuff all the time, audiobooks, right? Before I get to the last book that I've got here and stuff, I don't know if I showed this, but back in February, it still has the price tag on it. I went into a comic book shop in Pikeville, Kentucky, and I actually was so worked up a little bit. I'm finding out that a real trigger for me is when you go into a comic book shop and they don't have things priced and they decide to look up eBay prices. And I did a whole video on poaching the comic prices and all this stuff like that. But I can't let it go, man. But I think the shittiest thing you can do as a store is to do the thing where you let people waste their time, treating them like free labor, going through finding these books, and you want to charge them eBay prices and have them stand there while you get online and look up all the prices and stuff. That's ridiculous. It's ridiculous. No way to run a store. Go through your stock, figure it out yourself. And if I want eBay prices, I'll get on eBay and pay those prices. And that saves me money on gas and it saves my time. But anyway, since I was there and the staff was nice and, it was all right. It was all right. It was, kind of weird because it's a weird part of Kentucky to a certain extent, I guess. You know what I mean? But anyway, I decided to look around and I saw that they had 2 copies of Legend of Zelda for the original Nintendo. The other one was priced a bit higher and they guaranteed me that this is going to work, yet I haven't been able to pull the trigger and stick this in the Nintendo we have here. I don't know. I have some bells and whistles going off for some reason. But the last book I got, if you remember way back in the day, one of the times that I sat down and read some comic books and actually felt like I was losing my mind because they were so mundane and the story wasn't moving forward. It was just an amazing waste of time. And I kept reading the books. I think I read 14 of them in a row, hoping something would happen in what was going on. But I've never seen writing like this before, right? Because it's sad, because by the time he got to the end of his run, it was nothing like when he was at the beginning of his run with Green Lantern Rebirth and stuff, right? Jeff Johns' Green Lantern run pre DC 52 is one of the greatest runs out there, I think, in my opinion. Stuff he pulled on, things that he created. He and Ethan Van Sciver came up with all the colors of the lanterns, the new lanterns, the big Sinestro War, the Lantern Wars. Just made it into like it's a real rich, its own thing, right? And it led into Blackest Night. The last great event, I think, in comics ever has been the Blackest Night. But anyway, for just $7, now only $7, I have the hardback of the end of Jeff Johns' run on Green Lantern, even though it's in the DC 52. When I got the DC 52 books, even though he was continuing what he did pre 52 and going on with it, nothing happened. There, he and Sinestro are floating out in space, like in issue 1 or 2. And by the time I got to the 12th or 3rd episode, they're still out there floating off in space, and Hal Jordan still doesn't have his own ring. Nothing happened. I mean, it was just the most mind-numbing read that I had seen in forever. This was like the kind of comics you heard about growing up that would rot your brain if you read them, right? So I ended up buying the last issue, Green Lantern 20, I think, that Jeff Johns did. And I got it out of a $1 box, not going to lie, but I got it because, like, well, it's the end of his run. Well, that's the same thing I did here. I get to put this on the shelf with the Green Lantern stuff. I want to flip through it and kind of read it, see if I can get through it. But the 52 stuff was horrible. Pre-52, spot on, great run. But anyway, just kind of got this because now I have the beginning of Jeff Johns' run, and I want to book in it with the end because it was on sale. I mean, good grief, this is probably like a $25, $30 trade for $7 now. Yeah. But that's my haul. And I'm thinking about doing a video or a live show where I show off my wife's manga series, manga books. She's built up quite a really nice collection of books, but she gets quality stories that she likes. She doesn't just grab them because they're manga. She has to test them out and actually looks them up online a little bit, see if she likes the art. And I was so impressed because we were at Books A Million, and all of a sudden she was talking about the creators of these manga books, the way we would talk about Alan Moore, Neil Gaiman, and Jack Kirby and all this stuff, right? She started recognizing the names of the Japanese creators and everything, which I thought was fantastic. So she has one series that I'm interested in really reading called The Girl from the Other Side. And I've got one, I've got some manga and stuff, but she's really getting quite the collection. All parts of Kentucky are weird. That is from Scott Connor, guys. His opinions are his own. Some of them new 52 series ain't worth the paper. Yeah, a lot of them are not, even with the test of time and the forgiveness of time. I got rid of so much stuff from the 52, and I wasn't even really buying that much to begin with. So thanks for everybody popping in here. Thanks for everybody spending a Sunday with me. Thanks for everybody that made this comment section what it was. Check out Graphic Man. Check out Solid 4-String Ben. Just go through the live chat. Make sure you thumb it up. Sub it if you're not sub. Let people know that we're here and we talk comics. And y'all be excellent to each other. Later, guys.